Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Unbox It with YHA Africa. So in our first episode, we delved into the conversation of what FGM is. And on this episode, we are going to be diving into another interesting topic. We are looking at the role men play in ending female genital mutilation. So in the studio with us today, we have Mr. Peter Ogah. He's a program officer here at YHA Africa. He is also a women and girls' rights advocate. He has been frontlining and spearheading advocacies around female genital mutilation, around women especially. So Mr. Peter Ogah, we are glad to have you in the studio with us today.
Thank you very much, Confidence. I am also very glad to be here.
And also, to our second amazing guest, we have Mr. Benjamin Yager. Mr. Benjamin is the National Coordinator for AFRIAN. He is also the Executive Director of Beyond Development for Africa's Youth Advancement Initiative. And with over 10 years in the development sector, Mr. Yager has designed and delivered projects, including initiatives to end female genital mutilation. Mr. Benjamin, it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you very much, and it's good to be here.
Female genital mutilation is a really, really harmful practice that has been practiced not only in Africa, but even beyond. And female genital mutilation has always been perceived to be a women's issue. But the conversation we are having here, we are trying to let people know that men can also be brought on board to ensure that we fight against female genital mutilation. So with your work around FGM and your advocacy around FGM, what does FGM mean personally to you, and how has your knowledge of FGM evolved over the years?
I remember first when I heard the word FGM, it sounded very, very vague, and I didn't really understand what that means. And because I was in the line and I'm an advocate for change to ensure that we create a safe and healthy space for everyone to live in, I had to go extra mile to make my research and to learn, to listen, to hear people's stories around female genital mutilation. So FGM means beyond just a sociocultural harmful practice. It means an unhealthy lifestyle that diminishes people's potential.
Thank you very much for that wonderful insight. Mr. Peter, do you share this perspective, or you have something else to add?
Yeah, so if you ask me that question and you ask me to personalize it, I would tell you that 15 years before now, if you ask me the same question, I knew little or nothing about FGM. But from my work in this space, I've come to realize that FGM, if we are to define, it will be defined as any procedure that involves the partial or the total removal of the female external genitalia. It can also involve injuries caused to that area, and by that area, you allow me to just gesticulate. By that area, any injuries caused to that area for very selfish reasons.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, as men, how would you perceive your role in the fight against FGM?
When you were laying the foundation for this conversation, one of the things that you talked about that actually caught my attention was the popular belief that FGM is a female or women issue. And I think that misconstrued perception and understanding is one reason why we've not made so much headway and progress around our fight against FGM. If you look at the whole idea behind FGM, whichever the type, whether it is the closing of that opening, and permit me, because of course, so I do not get my wife come at me after this interview. I will be doing a lot of gesticulation to put out or point out my thoughts. Yeah, so whether it is the closing of that opening. For instance, I'm the man and I am in a relationship with a lady that place has been closed. The idea that people have for doing that is so that there will be more friction, and the man would enjoy sexual pleasure. But usually, as is always the case, when that happens, both parties do not enjoy sex because it's usually a painful experience for the lady, except if what the man has under there is wood. If it is not wood, if it is flesh, if the thing has flesh around it, and the man will also feel pain, and sometimes you even come out with bruises. So imagine that that thing comes, that congee, as we call it, comes. And after the experience, you are now working and you're not comfortable. The lady herself is not comfortable. Now, for every responsible man, when you have experience, when you have sexual experience that ordinarily should have been pleasurable, and the lady is not happy, you too, you are not happy, it's not an experience you look forward to. So you see that affecting even marriages, you see it affecting relationships and the like. So as a man, I think, and this is also something that can be fact-checked, studies also confirm that men that are married to women that are survivors of FGM would tell you that it's not an experience they want for their wives. Yeah, because if you're a responsible man and you are married to a woman that you see come under mental stress, come under psychological trouble and trauma as a result of that procedure, it also tells on the man. I've just illustrated that. So personally, what I do now more as an individual and as a man that is married and as a father as well, is to continue to push that narrative that FGM does not benefit girls, it does not benefit women, and it's very important that other men join in this advocacy. As men, we are the carriers of our culture and tradition. So when the man is saying, I don't want my daughter caught, it is very, very unlikely for the wife to go ahead with that when the father is against it.
What you said there was really, really striking, because most of the reasons, one of the reasons why FGM is being practiced, they say it's because of the man, to make the girl less promiscuous, to make her a suitable wife for her husband. So when you are now saying that even when people have gone through FGM, the husbands, they don't even benefit from it. So why exactly are we doing it? That's the question we should ask ourselves, because the men are not even benefiting from it at the end of the day.
So is that thing about cultural practices and religious practices that we carry out by assumption? Yeah, so the perpetrators of this stuff, the FGM, usually assume that the man is going to benefit eventually, and the lady is also going to benefit it eventually. I was having a conversation with a colleague that said something about her mom sharing stories about FGM and stuff about they do that because when the woman is to put to bed, it makes it easy for her to put to bed. So these decisions are made. Okay, so if you're making a decision for me, it's just to my best interest that you get my consent. And again, it is also important that we establish beyond the sexual part some of the health disadvantages that come with FGM. You see a lot of the survivors having infertility issue. You see, it makes, in fact, the way the thing is done, it makes it very easy for them to carry and house diseases, and the likes. Yeah, so it does not in any way benefit the man, and I'm speaking as a man, right? It does not benefit the man in any way. It does not benefit the woman in any way.
This podcast, we are going to be getting perspectives from both people, from the married man and also from the single man. So, Mr. Yager, you are the single man in the room. I hope are you single and are you searching, or you are found?
I have to marry this time around.
Okay, so coming from the perspective of a single man, how can you influence your peers, your people in the same circle with you, to challenge this harmful practice?
I have the understanding to at least speak within my peers, first of all. In that conversation, we'll be able to demystify most of these issues. Very importantly, as young men, you know how important it is in various communities you go to. Youth groups are the most powerful. So imagine coming with the right information, coming with the right experiences, coming to share stories from married men, from even married women, as the case may be, to share the stories on understanding the infertility, the risk attached to all this.
As a married woman, how open are families, especially male members of families, how open are they when they are discussing FGM to their children?
So to answer that question, I think it's important that we also contextualize the question. If we narrow it to Africa, maybe because I've not had the privilege of exploring the world. But if you talk about Africa, you will see that families, especially parents, are very laid back with having engagement with their children if it concerns their sexuality. I know that there have been a lot of advocacy and push for those conversations to happen more. But to answer the question, honestly, I will tell you that parents, especially fathers, are not very open to have such conversations, which for me is not right, right? If you look at what is happening now, even beyond the FGM, you look at what is happening now to female children, it is very, very important that parents begin to get involved in having those conversations. Men especially begin to have those conversations with girls. Conversations and even talk about FGM, because the practice, as what we see currently, most times when conversations about FGM happen, it is just experts having that talk with women. I think that on the table where this talk happen, both men and women should be on that table, because it's something that affects both parties. For those of us that were, and apologies to family and friends, my wives, you know, and the rest, but for those of us that were quite sexually wild while coming up before marriage, you will know, you will agree that if you are in a relationship with a girl that, and this is not stereotyping, this is not trying to talk down on the experience of women and girls that have gone through FGM, but if you are in a relationship as a man with a lady, truth be told, and the clitoris has been cut or been removed, she does not enjoy sex. So imagine that as a man, with all your ginger and everything, you think you're already hitting and hitting hard. But as you're hitting, the girl is just looking, the lady is just looking at you and be wondering, what is this man doing? You know, it is energy sapping, it is mentally draining, and a difficult route for any man that is in a relationship with such a lady. So it's not something that benefits both parties. Most likely, I will lie to lie. Most likely, if I am the man, as I've done in the past, I will go and look for another woman that, as I'm eating, I am getting positive feedback, you know, as compared to when nothing is happening.
How would you have responded if your wife had undergone FGM?
If it is now, the current me, with all of the information I have about FGM, I would support my wife. There will be no pressure to want to have sex, and if there are other medical measures we could explore, I know that there are talks online, and if you engage with experts in the field, especially those in the medical space, they will tell you that there are processes, medical processes that the woman can, and if the word, I think the word is underwent, maybe, the woman can go through, that is sort of a reversal. That reversal, in a way, help to take out some of the effects, some of the negative effects. So those are ways I could come in. If you want me to answer the question as a man that is not as knowledgeable as I am now, like in those days, the 15 years ago that I mentioned, I'm most likely going to look for another wife. Apologies. Okay. Another woman that will be able to give me that show in the other room.
Would you be comfortable marrying a girl that has undergone FGM?
I remember my last trip to KB State. There was a very little adolescent girl who is suffering from fistula, and on that same note, she's a survivor of FGM. So imagine what it is, double batter upon her. And maybe that's one of the things that have made me single up till date. Yes. With the works we do, with the things we see in the society, it makes me wonder if, we are actually doing a lot in the advocacies we are putting through and all that. So I will certainly, yes, marry and protect an FGM survivor.
So how can young men become active advocates in communities where FGM persists?
First of all, let me share the work we do, and thanks to Youth of Africa, I think we, during the last men's summits, Yeah, we met a group of young people, youth group, who've been engaging for the past, this is getting to over 18 months, 16 to 18 months. And what they have done has really been amazing. Yes, so initially they were over 76 young persons, comprising of both boys and girls. And we started from the conversation. We had a football novelty match, sexual reproductive health in sports. We used sports to now teach them sexual reproductive health. Afterwards, they became champions, moved into their communities. FGM, as you know, practiced in FCT here since the inception of their training. We've had from 76 currently, I can proudly tell you, we have grown over 546 youth champions in FCT, in Kwali, Abaji, Gwagwalada, and Buhari local government councils. And this is not just because we have pushed in with building their capacities or knowledge sharing, but because we have given them, we've shared stories of survivors. We've shared beyond just stories, narratives beyond sociocultural practices. Imagine coming to the passport office and you're watching, as you're sitting, waiting for your turn, and you're watching survivors sharing their stories, Mr. Peter sharing his story as a married man, and I'm sharing my story as a single man. What happens? We are not just informing young people, we are changing the behavioral mindsets. Some of these things are unknown to them. So, yes, we will continue to push in, ensure young men come on board, teach them, share stories that will touch their lives, that will motivate them to also stand in. So they ensure that no one practices or undergoes FGM in their community.
Sometimes when these people practice FGM, their idea is to preserve the virginity of the girl. A girl decided to keep her virginity is not, FGM does not help it in any way. She can be caught and still decides to be an agbalagba. She cannot be caught and decides to preserve her virginity. So if the excuse is so that the lady will not be promiscuous, please allow the lady to decide if she wants to be promiscuous or not.
So, what advice would you give to young people out there who may also want to advocate against this harmful practice? They want to put an end to FGM. What advice can you give out there?
And there are a lot of platforms and ways that you can drive that advocacy. A good example is just having conversation amongst your peers within your immediate community. That does not cost anything. Just share information, the things you have learned about FGM with them. I also know that there are organizations in Nigeria, across Nigeria, that have done a lot of work around FGM and keep doing a lot of work around FGM. Youth of Africa is one. There's One Life Initiative. There are a couple of other organizations. There are organizations you can easily get resources about FGM from. Social media, one. The Young Men's Network that Youth of Africa has, or leads, is another. Having conversation, simple conversations with your peers within your community is another. Even with your parents, you can help them to realize that FGM does not benefit us in any way. I'm a man, I can tell you that FGM does not benefit me. Lie, it does not benefit me. It does not benefit my wife. It will not benefit my daughter.
I will first of all encourage young advocates to push on, check for resources from various platforms, from UNFPA Nigeria, from Youth of Africa, from One Life Initiative, from African Nigeria, as well as a lot of organizations who are pushing and advocating for an end to FGM. We have to build our capacities. We have to engage with traditional rulers. Our religious institutions are key also to achieving this. And one thing that I will also continue to use is to use those religious networks to ensure that we bring people to come on board. Young people, young boys, young men, and even women. Importantly, like you made mention, I think one that has worked for me very well is this women's group, Zumunta Mata.
Mr. Peter, thank you very much, Mr. Benjamin. Your words have been really, really insightful. I've gained a lot, and I hope our listeners out there have also gained a lot as well. So we also encourage young people to speak out. You can also advocate to the end of female genital mutilation. And with all this, we know that we will make a difference in our world.